Hey guys, welcome to the Kane Audio vlog. It is another week of Ask Me Anything. So before I get into this, I want to let everyone know that a couple of weeks ago I mentioned the Mau5trap competition that I've done with Masonic Academy. That ends technically midnight tonight PST, 7 a.m. tomorrow UK time, assuming this video goes out on Friday. It's actually now Thursday and I'm recording this, so yeah, whatever, by the time this video comes out you've basically got a few hours to submit your remix for the competition, for the Mau5trap remix comp. So if you've been working on that, get it done now. Right, straight into the Ask Me Anything. I've had a very quick skim through some of the comments. There are going to be too many to answer in this video. Last week's video was, 40 something minutes. In fact, it's right in front of me, 45 minutes and 40 seconds. This video I'm going to try and keep to about 20 minutes-ish. And if your question isn't answered in this video, then by all means copy and paste it into the next one or whatever, and let's just keep it going. This is hopefully going to be an ongoing series. I really enjoyed the questions last time. So starting at the top, Julian Gray Media, video collab, bro? Yeah, man, why not? I've seen a few of your videos. For anyone that hasn't seen his videos, click his name there and check it out. Yeah, I don't know what we'd do a video about, but hey, if you've got an idea, let's do it. I'm always up for that. Next one, Music Speaks. Hey Dom, I would love to see an automation tutorial, tips and tricks, etc. Not sure if you've covered automation yet, as I'm still working my way through the vlogs, but this would be very helpful. Okay. Under this video, explain to me what automation you need a tutorial on, because from my perspective, if I automate the gain of something, I just draw a line, and if it sounds good, then I'm okay with that, and if it doesn't sound good, then I'll tweak it until it sounds good. So I don't know what automation tutorial you want. I'm trying to think of what you could want, but I don't know. Yeah, get back to me on that. FanFan87, hi Dom, FanFan again. In fact, that's a touchy question here. Hope you're going to answer. You're a sound designer making presets for Serum, okay. But what's your opinion about producers that bought preset packs, make music and pretend it's their tracks? I mean, how a producer can say he actually produces a track without making his own sounds. Where's the border between the producer who creates his sounds and the producer who bought his sound instead of making it? I fully respect sound designers and their amazing knowledge, but how about the consumers? That's a touchy and ethic question, I guess. You know what? That's a great question, and it's not touchy at all, and nor should it be. And if you think it's touchy, then no. Do you know my honest answer? Don't give a shit. If someone makes their own presets, great. If they don't make their own presets, why should I care? And why should you care? Why should anyone give a shit? Hell, let's look at Serum. I built some of the presets in Serum, but some of the other presets are way better than mine. So why wouldn't I use those presets? They sound great. I'm a firm believer that the most important thing any music producer needs to consider is what comes out the speakers. I don't care how it got there, it's what comes out that counts. So, as for producers using sample packs or presets or whatever, if it sounds good, it sounds good. you know, if okay, let's look at it from another angle. Every synth we ever have, whether it be Silent One or Serum or you name it, every synth ever has a detuned saw sound. We all know the detuned saw sound. Why would I sit there for 5 minutes opening up Massive and building a bunch of oscillators with a saw wave and then slightly detuning and blah blah blah? Why would I do that when every synth has that as a preset anyway, and just click a button? It doesn't sound any different. So another way to look at it, I suppose, is okay, would you expect a guitarist in a band to build all their own guitar pedals? Because that's essentially what you're implying an electronic producer should do. So I don't think every producer should be a sound designer, and I don't think that you know, I think you should work with what you've got, and I think you should work with your strengths. And if you are good at making presets and you've made some interesting different sounds, great. That's going to make you a more interesting and different producer. But if you only use the same presets as everyone else, then you will only ever sound like everyone else. But that isn't wrong. If that's what you want to do, then go for it. I don't see the problem in that. You know, I think there's a weird perception in our industry that we have to be writers, composers, producers, sound designers, mix engineers, mastering engineers, record labels. We have to be all these people in one. It's bullshit. If you're good at writing but you're shit at producing, then write for producers. If you're great at producing but you're shit at writing, then produce for writers. Team up with people. You know, in the same way as you have some vocalists are able to write their own lyrics, some vocalists can't. It's not, you know, you shouldn't have to do everything. You wouldn't expect, if you formed a band, you wouldn't expect your drummer to be a mix engineer. So why should you expect anyone else to be a mix engineer? Probably wrong to pick on a drummer there, because drummers don't have any talent. Aha! But other than mouthing off and sleeping with all the other band members' girlfriends. But calm down, guys. I'm not having a go at drummers. They're just an easy target. Yeah, so there we go. That's that. I don't think you have to design all your presets from scratch. If you're fiddling with a synth and the synth sounds great, then it sounds great. There's no point reinventing the wheel every time. And the same goes for loops as well. If you use loops packs, and you know, I know one very famous producer that you probably know the name of, and probably know the track I'm talking about, but there was one famous dance track 5 years ago that was essentially just a loop looped, and I think he'd maybe put a kick drum on it and maybe a hi-hat. And a lot of people kicked off about that because, yeah, it's kind of cheating and blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, the track sounded great. So is it really cheating? Is it a bad thing? I don't get me wrong, it's unoriginal. Don't get me wrong, it's lazy. Don't get me wrong, it's no masterpiece, and it's never going to be considered any of those things. But for that producer in question, it wasn't even about making a masterpiece or anything. It was about, you know, filling stadiums and churning out bangers, and, well, mission complete. So, hey, if that's what he wanted, that's what he got. So he's a success in his eyes, and that's all that counts. Right, I've rambled on that one way too long. Next one, Xfer. Hi Dom, I discovered you not so long ago, but became a huge fan after the Structures EP, Love from India. Hello! Well, most of the questions I had are already answered, so I'm just going to ask some basic questions that at some point every producer has. Questions. What are the different ways to make money in this industry? Okay, good question. Well, I think we all know that record sales don't really make producers very much money directly, or record labels for that matter, until you get into the big leagues and start churning out, massive records. Then sales don't really make much money. But you know what? There are hundreds of ways of making money without being famous or even millionaires or whatever. It can be anything from ghost production, which I know is a controversial subject. It could be writing for TV, for film, for ad agencies, for websites. It could be sound design for anything from computer games to films to apps to websites to anything. You could make money as an instrumentalist, as a session musician, as a recording studio, as a technician. I mean, the list is endless, really. It depends on what you want to do, I suppose. Personally, I mean, I do quite a few different things in the industry, from writing for other artists like bands and stuff, and sometimes writing backing tracks for vocalists I know, to my sound design work, which most people know, to obviously writing and releasing records, DJing, which I haven't done much of over the last few years because I got pissed off with the politics, but I might be doing more of that again later this year. But I think so long as you do what you love and you love what you do, then the rest comes easy. How to get into ghost producing? Oh, you mentioned ghost producing. There we go. How to be a ghost producer? Do you know what? I don't know. First of all, produce great records. I would say probably start off with a website, maybe offering 1 minute, 2 minute clips of tracks that you've already written, and make them available for sale. And I suppose your next step would be to just push that as a business model. It's no different to any other business. Don't forget that ghost producers seem to have a lot of flack off people, or not the ghost producers, probably the people using ghost producers get more flack. But it seems to be this controversial subject when it shouldn't be a controversial subject. I've done a few ghost productions in my time, and I've really enjoyed it because it's been in a style of music that I wouldn't put out maybe under my own name. And also, I don't care about being famous. I don't care about fucking Instagram and all the image crap. That's not me. I'm a nerd who likes to sit in his studio talking to more nerds like yourselves. I'm not interested in the whole sort of fame and glory bollocks that goes with it. So as a producer, if somebody, and you love writing music and you love making tracks and you love the whole creative process of doing the hard work, and somebody offers you a bunch of money for that, you'd be an idiot to turn it down, because isn't that the perfect job for most people? If you're not into being famous or being on stage or whatever else, then ghost producer is a great way of doing it. So yeah. What are your thoughts on college education for electronic music production, sound engineering, film game scoring, etc.? I kind of touched on this before, I think. So college education is a tricky one because I have an engineering degree from a university which was all maths and physics based. So I'm obviously a big fan of education in general. But what I'm not a fan of necessarily is a lot of the DJ schools and stuff that keep popping up that really just kind of teach you how to mix and maybe how to playlist and maybe how to, I don't know, build a website and a few bits and pieces. And I just think, well, actually, if you can't do all that stuff on your own, then you shouldn't really be paying for somebody to show you. You know, building a website these days, you don't need HTML skills, you don't need PHP skills, you know, whether it be WordPress or Squarespace or whatever, you know, there's plenty of ways out there to make a website. I mean, Christ, these days you barely even need a website, you know, when you've got Facebook and MySpace and stuff like that. So I would say college education for electronic music production is not essential, but it might be good to build up your skill set. So, for example, the reason I did my engineering degree was because I'd already got a career as a producer and as a sound designer. I was full-time self-employed doing that anyway. And I just felt like I was twiddling knobs on synths and compressors and whatever else and going around studios. And I just kind of felt like I wanted to know more about the science behind these things. How are they built? How do they work? What are the electronics and components doing inside these things? So that's why I went and did my degree. It was just purely to nerd out, and I would love to go back and do more, to be honest. So I think, you know, college education could be great if you have a weakness in an area. Then find a course that is in your weakness if that's something you want to strengthen. But if you're not interested in doing that, then don't bother, because it's not really gonna, you know, it's pointless getting educated in something you're already good at. I guess that's kind of the point. I don't know. Deadly Power Custard, hello again. Hey Dom, we've all been enjoying your remix competition with Masonic Academy. I've certainly learnt a lot during the making process. Do you think you'd be up for doing a review of your favourite entries and perhaps how we could improve our work? Thanks again for the super content and sounds. You're welcome. Maybe. I think it would be unfair to do it on that remix competition. Firstly, because there would be people who have submitted tracks into that remix competition that maybe wouldn't want to be critiqued. And there would also be people who got that course and submitted and everything, and maybe they don't want to be having me giving any kind of feedback, or other people, I don't know. So that might be a bit tricky. Also, there are people who will hopefully like and subscribe and whatever to this YouTube channel who haven't gone into the remix comp. So I would say, but I have kind of thought about this before, what I might do is either YouTube or maybe a Facebook live video. I might plan one ahead at one point, and I'll obviously let everyone know through this channel and say, you know, for example, next Friday I'm going to go live and I'm going to just blitz through people's music, much like this AMA. Maybe do something like that, and maybe do it live, critiquing other people's music, and you know, you can just send me bits and pieces and we'll all sort of have a chat. I think that could be a cool way of doing it. Another thing I thought about doing was setting up some sort of Facebook group for that, and again sort of tying it all in. But yeah, so that's hopefully half answered your question. Next, Cav, okay. Hi Dom, enjoyed your first AMA, though you may have created a monster here. Yeah. My questions. How much music do you output, i.e. for own releases, sample packs or any other work, and how much time goes into producing that music? Plus, how much gets shelved or even binned? Okay. Good question. I don't know. I would say, I have kind of thought about it before, I would say 1 in 10 tracks I start get finished, and 1 in 10 tracks I finish, I send to a label, probably. So that's 1 in 100 tracks that I write get released, I guess. However, that can be a multitude of reasons. First of all, I'm really fussy. Second of all, I think the best tracks, or my best tracks, for me personally, my favourite tracks that I've done have been ones that have just happened, and I'm sure you all know what I'm talking about. You know, you can churn through a track and it's not quite getting there, it's not doing what you want it to do, and then you go, oh fuck this, and start another track, and then randomly one day you nearly finish a track in like 2-3 hours. Those are usually the best ones, because everything works and everything starts flowing and you get really excited, and those are the best moments. That's why we do what we do. So if that doesn't happen with me, then it probably won't be a track that gets released. But that doesn't mean that track wasn't a good idea. So what I'll do is I'll save that. I never really bin anything completely. I have what I call an archive, which is my bin, and stuff I don't use gets thrown into that, so it's just out of the way and I don't see it. And then maybe once every 6 months, a year, 2 years, whatever, I might just go through some of those, because there might be a melody idea. I might have learned a new technique. I might have done something recently, and then I'll go through those old bits and I'll just go, oh, do you know what? That chord phrase is lovely. I'll grab that and stick it in something new, or that beat was good, or that whatever, something was good. So I don't throw anything away completely, but I refuse to force myself into making a track. If the track doesn't get finished within, say, a couple of days, then it wasn't doing what I wanted it to do. So I tend to sort of just put it to the side. So how much music do you output for own releases, sample packs, or any other work? So sample packs are a bit different, and I guess some of that gets binned. I'd say probably 50-50 maybe, but it's probably harder to gauge, because sometimes in a way there's no such thing as wrong with a sample pack, because if I'm putting together 100 kicks, those kicks don't necessarily have to work with anything specific, but they need to gel as a pack. So, and the way I write my packs usually is I will write 2, 4 or 8 bars of essentially a track. I'll get a bass line, a kick drum, a hi-hat, and I'll mix them all together and I'll get them sounding tight, so that I know each and every sound in this series of loops will work together as a track, and I kind of try and do that with all my sample packs. So you'll notice with a lot of them there might be sort of series of numbers that work well together. Right, what else? I suppose what I'm wanting to understand is your ratio of time input to music output, and how much of that gross musical output ends up seeing the light of day. So I think as much as 1 in 100 tracks get finished and released and whatever, I would say that a lot of the others still get then reused at a later date and eventually do come out somewhere. I also save a lot because I do library content and sample packs and things like that. Those ideas might not have been a complete track for me, but they can be used in other places. And so I would say most of the gross musical output ends up seeing the light of day in one way or another. And what did you want to know? Ratio of time input to music output. Well, again, that's kind of tricky. So, you know, for my EP, for example, in total production time, if I'm horribly honest to myself, I probably spent about a month producing an EP that nobody ever heard and ever will. And I then, after doing that, decided this isn't right. I felt so the label came back and questioned a couple of bits, and then that made me then go, yeah, actually, hang on, I felt like it was finished, but it wasn't, and I wasn't 100% committed. So I then, rather than tweak those things that were questioned, I decided, fuck this whole thing, I'm starting again. So I technically wrote probably 2 or 3 EPs to get the one that was released. And I think a lot of the time as a producer, sometimes we're waiting for that creative flair to just spark. So that's kind of a tricky one, because, you know, as I was saying earlier, you know, some of our best tracks can be done in a day, but sometimes it takes 15 days to get that one day where it all comes together. So I don't want to think about how much time I've wasted, basically. Med, hi Dom, thanks for your answer. My question from last week. I really appreciate your help and time. These are my questions for the next video. 1, I started music production 2 years ago. I reached a point where I cannot learn a lot of things. What should I do? You can learn a lot of things. I'm still learning a lot of things, and I've been doing this for over 20 years now. So I would say if you don't feel like you're learning, then you're probably not experimenting and pushing the boundaries enough. So let's say, for example, you make house music. Try making some drum and bass. Try making some classical. Try making a film score. It doesn't, not for release, not for a record label, just for yourself, just for you to listen and for you to learn. And there's always something you can learn. Question 2, can you mix effectively on headphones? To my understanding, other people can mix effectively on headphones, but there are always going to be issues with stereo phasing and things like that. So for example, if you had, God knows why, but if you had a stereo kick drum or bass line, it might sound fine on earphones, but if you play them through stereo speakers, they might cancel each other out if they're not phased correctly. So I guess you can do 99% of a mix in headphones if they're good headphones with a good headphone amp and blah blah blah. Other people seem to be able to do it really well. I can't do shit on headphones. I only know of a couple of other people like me, but I'm one of those people. I can't produce on a laptop or in a hotel or on headphones. It just doesn't work for me. I can't do it. I have to be in my studio with my surroundings, drinking my coffee, doing my things my way. Zombo, thanks. Sid Jacobs, another question. Do you work on several tracks at once, or do you focus on a single track until it's completely finished? Bit of both. If I'm in one of those magical days where just everything's rolling, I'm sticking on that track, and that might roll into the next day and maybe the next day. Otherwise, I might come up with an idea and then go, that's not doing what I wanted it to do. I'll come back to that another day and I'll start another one. And then I might come back the next day and open up that first one and go, oh, actually, something I did yesterday might work on this now, and it goes on. So I guess, yeah, 1 or 2 or 3 maybe at the most at any given time. And then I'm going to call this the last question for today. I can see there's a bunch of others, so sorry guys. So apparently my camera likes to stop recording after half an hour. That's probably a good thing. Right, so that's my warning to hurry the fuck up. So this question was from Finn Fighter. Hi Dom, that was fast 45 minutes. Big thanks for your tips. You're welcome. I have a question on how you do a proper sound design so all the sounds fit together. Is there some kind of trick or knowledge that make it work, or is it just hit and miss game? I personally use hours and more hours to design sounds, and if it does not work, I go through presets and still shooting blankets, so what the fuck really. So I'm talking about only synth sounds, not the others. My sound design is frustrating. Yeah, well, I mean, everything has to fit together, doesn't it? Whether it be your kicks and your bass, or your bass and your leads, or and I guess it's really subjective. I mean, there are kind of objective views on it. So, for example, if your bass line is quite high up in the range and filling the mids, then clearly you want a more airy lead sound that's going to allow that lower mid range to be filled with the bass line. I guess if if you had a really harsh square or saw wave distorted noisy bass line, then you need to think carefully about your lead line, because it needs to sit on top of that and not react. But I don't think I think about that as much as I probably should. I don't know. I just do it. So is there some kind of trick or knowledge? Not really. I think it's just about maybe every now and then, when you're halfway through a track, you need to listen to it with a different set of ears. So turn your back to the computer monitor, or switch your computer monitor off and leave it playing, and ask yourself, right, you need to maybe switch your computer monitor off and listen to the music objectively, and ask yourself, does everything sit together? Is there enough balance across the whole spectrum? Is there enough down low and in the mid and in the upper mids and then the highs? Is there enough energy in each area? So I try to listen to my music as imagine a 4-band EQ, and those ranges are where I'm listening to energy levels. So for example, the kicks and bass will fill the first frequency range, and that's fine, but you need to go, well, are there any other synths that are maybe overlapping into that maybe shouldn't be? And then your next band, should there be a synth filling this octave or this range? And then the next band, and so on, and you work your way up to have the hi-hats and the snares, the claps, any of the upper percussion sounds, anything with big transients or whatever. Is that, or are they all sitting together nicely in terms of gain and range and dynamics? So I think maybe there's no trick or specific knowledge, but there is definitely practice, and listen to other producers, listen to other producers' tracks that you appreciate, and ask yourself, how have they filled each of those frequency ranges? And yeah, that should probably, it's just a case of training your brain, I suppose, and training your ears. Yeah, there we go. I'm going to end it right there. I want to keep going, to be honest. So yeah, anyone whose questions I haven't answered, I can see the next question is, what is compression exactly? I really want to answer that, but I'm not going to, because these videos are just going to get too long, and I know most people can't spend an hour watching one YouTube video. You're on YouTube for a reason, and that's to be entertained by short, snappy videos, and I get that. So yeah, so I'm going to pass it on to next week's video. If you've not had your question answered, or if you've got a new question after today, please do comment on this video, and I'm gonna have to say this as well. If you like these videos, please do give them a thumbs up and give them, subscribe, do all of that crap, because YouTube basically put preference to recommending videos in other people's timelines based on how many interactions they get, blah blah blah. So for other people it's important, so please do that. Thanks again for listening. I'll see you again at the very latest this time next week. Cheers, see ya.